It's making the lemur disappear little by little. Fires too are destroying them. People are hunting them for their meat.
Primatologists admit that significant threats on primates and their habitats still remain. They want African governments to strengthen the already existing guidelines, but also strongly engage the communities. In East Africa, human conflicts have also endangered gorilla existence. Mountain gorillas found in the Bwindi impenetrable forest and Virunga volcanoes in Uganda, Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo are numbering only less than 900. Community leaders say improving community attitudes towards gorilla conservation will save the species.
There is a conversation on table in terms of scientists coming to understand that vision.
The concern now for primatologists is the long-term survival of the various monkey species, and scaling up any protection efforts across Africa will save the primates from extinction. Leon Sanyange, CGTN, Entebbe, Uganda.
In Côte d'Ivoire, a conference on building a community with a shared future has been held in the capital, Abidjan. The conference sought to strengthen ties between China and the West African nation. Here's more from CGTN's Astatal.
For close to 2 hours, panelists from Côte d'Ivoire and China discussed the strengthening ties between the two nations. It was held on the sidelines of a visit by delegates from China's Communist Party.
Côte d'Ivoire is a great partner for us. This meeting plays at 8 years now, so it has a very high potential, and we want to further strengthen cooperation in all areas.
Pounds the benefits of China's commitment on a future that is based on multilateralism and a developmental agenda, which is geared towards mutual good.
In practice, building the China-Côte d'Ivoire community with a shared future already started, since there is a very frank cooperation between the two nations. Our embassies work together, and we have several Chinese companies here. Our experts regularly go to China to acquire
The sector has been registering impressive growth lately, thanks to this cooperation. China is Africa's biggest trading partner, and this conference sought to stamp the Asian nation's commitment to the course of the continent. Astatal, CGTN.
Let's now head to Senegal, where the capital, Dakar, has hosted a regional conference on West African women members of the police. Attendees look to push for more inclusion of women in defense and security forces across the region.
For 3 days, female police commissioners, inspectors and gendarmerie captains gathered to share knowledge and identify common challenges. They brought their troops from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger and Senegal.
We aim to create a West African network of women in law enforcement by the end of this conference. This way, they can not only share experiences, but also urge our governments to increase the recruitment of women in the police force.
The lack of women in police forces is a global problem. According to a 2015 United Nations report, 90% of police officers in peacekeeping missions were men. The UN launched a goal in 2009 to have women comprise 20% of its officers in peacekeeping missions. Burkina Faso, which has faced insecurity due to multiple militant attacks
of defense and security forces in emergency response situations, especially pertaining to women. Our delegation will take the opportunity to not only share our experience, but also to make contact and learn about good practices.
The host country, Senegal, has seen an increase over the years of women joining security forces. From 2009 to 2018, women went from accounting for 7% of individual police officers to 18%. The country has a goal of reaching 50-50 gender parity in command positions by 2021. Women currently occupy 16% of police command positions.
I think it's a very good thing to integrate women into gendarmerie and the police. The image of women is evolving. Today, women fight like men. I often see police women in traffic. They're very brave.
While the conference has come to an end, the attendees will take the fight for more female inclusion in their country's security forces. Noah Otieno, CGTN.
As young Algerians look to further their education, China is becoming a more attractive destination. At this year's Chinese Higher Education Exhibition, over 30 universities look to attract Algerian students. Let's now take a look.
Algerian students filed into the Chinese Higher Education Exhibition. They came to learn more about the potential of continuing their studies in China. Foreign students benefited in 2019 from over 205 scholarships and fellowships to continue their studies in China.
More and more students will graduate from here and be the bridge between two countries and be the cultural bridge between two countries.
Some Algerian students find the exposure to the Chinese culture beneficial.
When I went to China to study, I had two goals. First, to learn Chinese, and the second, to get a master's degree in finance and economics. I was able to achieve my first goal, and soon I will pass the master's exams. It's been a good experience, and I'm proud of it.
As more Algerian students further their studies in China, relations between both countries continue to grow. Astatal, CGTN.
All the business news coming up for you after the break, including cocoa farms in Ghana ravaged by a disease without a known cure. And the online marketplace where women in Tunisia are selling old clothes and buying new ones at discounted prices.
People from around the world come to Greystoke Mahale for the unique opportunity to see chimps in the wild. The Mahale Mountains National Park in Tanzania is home to the eastern subspecies of chimpanzee. Mwiga Mambo and his family came from this area before the national park existed. Following in the footsteps of his father and uncle, Mwiga introduces humans to chimpanzees that are thriving in his ancestral home.
Nigeria is my home. 160 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Nta, an anchor for CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
The German Chancellor is visiting the central Chinese city of Wuhan with an eye on boosting business ties. Angela Merkel, along with a business delegation, is meeting with companies in Hebei province. Her two-day trip comes as trade tensions simmer between China and the United States and as Germany's economy faces pressure. On Friday, Merkel sat down with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing.
The key message is that China and Germany should strengthen communication and cooperation, especially in light of today's complex international environment. President Xi says the current era is full of challenges and increasing risk. Unilateralism and protectionism pose a serious threat. He adds that no country can be immune from it. That is why China and Germany, two responsible major countries, should address these common challenges. The Chinese leader believes that one way to do this is to make the pie of China-Germany cooperation bigger, especially in emerging fields such as autonomous driving, new energy vehicles, artificial intelligence, and 5G. Xi also says that auto industry cooperation between the two countries is a good example of a win-win strategy. Top German carmakers inked a series of deals last year in China. Volkswagen committed over $17 billion in research funds in China. in areas including e-mobility and autonomous driving. BMW has also joined hands with Great Wall Motors to produce electric cars. German Chancellor says China is Germany's biggest trading partner, and her country would like to enhance coordination with China under the spirit of multilateralism and free trade. Earlier Friday, Merkel met with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. The two met at the Great Hall of the People and attended a meeting of the Bilateral Economic Advisory Committee. Yu Yang, CGTN.
Cocoa farmers in Ghana are facing huge losses as their farms are ravaged by the deadly swollen shoot disease. About 16% of the country's crops are affected by it, and there's no known cure, despite being identified over a century ago. It manifests itself in red-veined leaves or a lump in one of the branches. Unfortunately, the symptoms can take years to appear, and when they do, it's too late. The disease is also unique to West Africa, where about 3/4 of the world's cocoa is grown. Ghana is the world's second largest cocoa grower, and it's hoped that this latest outbreak will trigger an increased effort to find a solution. Ghana has cut its crop forecast by 11% this season. Ironically, neighbouring Côte d'Ivoire is gearing up for a bumper harvest this season. The hibiscus flower has more than just aesthetic appeal. It's made into a drink widely consumed in West Africa. The brew is called zobo in Nigeria. Now, one entrepreneur has taken the preparation process to a whole new and profitable level. CG10's Deji Badmus with that story.
Bottling has Segi Zobo drink before shipment to various clients. It's just been barely a year since Daphne Akatuba started making the Zobo drink out of the hibiscus flower and a mixture of other ingredients. Besides being an entrepreneur, Daphne is also a banker, and that's where the idea of starting up her Zobo enterprise actually began.
So it's just been something that we enjoyed doing at home and we loved doing. And next thing, I made it for my people in my office, and they tasted and they're like, this is nice. And I used to do it for free. And then my boss, which is interesting, right? My boss calls me and is like, don't you think that I should do this as a business? And I was like, sir, he was like, I think that you should look at making this something that you want to do. And I thought, okay, maybe we could try that. And that's how this started.
With a $13,000 funding from an angel investor, Daphne now has a thriving Zobo factory that produces a branded and registered product, Segi Zobo.
The money went into rent, into equipment, into a lot of things. There's boreholes you have to work on, water treatment. There's a lot of things that go into setting up a factory. And so a lot of money went into that. And I'm really, really grateful that I had someone who believed in what I was doing. But of course, it was because I was able to, with the small I was doing in my kitchen, show potential for growth.
Segi Zobo is gradually gaining traction in the Nigerian market. It is now stocked and sold in at least 26 stores across Lagos alone. And with most of her raw material sourced locally, Daphne is providing good business for local farmers.
This is fully made in Nigeria. It is 100%. And if we can't have our own products that we can drive and compete with other international brands, then what are we really doing? So for me, I'm excited and know, and what I'm even more excited is that everything is sourced here. So even if you shut all the borders, we can still produce. So, I'm definitely very, very, very excited about that. And I can't wait to reach out to more Nigerians and bless them with the Zobo goodness.
Electricity still remains a challenge for her factory as it runs on generator most of the time. But Daphne says she's not deterred and will continue to push for the expansion of her enterprise.
Every day I have to tell myself, don't be too hard, calm down. But I'm always hungry. I'm always looking for the next thing. What can we do next?
Her passion for enterprise is almost infectious. It's not difficult to see that it's only a matter of time before Segi Zobo becomes a household name in the country and possibly beyond. Deji Badmus, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Debshi, a Tunisian startup, has recently expanded into Morocco and Algeria. Its young co-founder aims to develop the website to become the leading fashion marketplace in the Middle East and North African region. CGTN's Adnan Shoashi with the story.
Ameni is an unusual Tunisian entrepreneur. The fashion lover started her own business with a limited budget after realizing that thousands of women were selling clothes on social networks. Ameni seized the opportunity and created Debshi.com with two co-founders, Ghazi Qtata and Osama Mahjoub.
Debshi is a localized fashion marketplace where women can earn money by selling their clothing online and save money by buying other items at discounted prices.
Debshi.com team is made up of talented young women. The university graduates embarked into this journey with Ameni. Together, they built a profitable project.
We operate as a startup. We're more friends than employees. The platform operates as a trusted third party by securing the process from payment to reception of the item to ensure complete customer satisfaction and protection.
The biomedical engineer has conquered the North African market. Now Ameni and her team dream of expanding to the rest of Africa and the Arab world.
We are not limited to Tunisia, Algeria and Morocco. Now we are developing a stronger platform to boost the activity in other countries.
The entrepreneur made it to Forbes 30 Under 30 list and Tech Women 2018. Now the fashion lover aims to empower African and Arab women through creating their own businesses in different sectors. Ameni left Paris to go back to Tunisia and start her own business. She quit a job with a stable income and learned everything from scratch. The young entrepreneur has become a role model in the North African state. Aden Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
The African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement sets up the biggest trade deal in the world. If tariffs are completely eliminated, gains of at least $16 billion are expected. However, one key factor that poses a threat to the deal is the ongoing US-China trade spat. But to some, the dispute is a significant opportunity for the continent. Here's the argument made by Deloitte's Managing Director for Emerging Markets in Africa to CGTN's Ramanayan.
I think from a market lens, there's significant disruption, of course, and destabilization. And there's a sense of globally risk on. We get that. However, there are certain countries that are benefiting significantly from the displacement of very employment generative, lower end cost manufacturing out of Southeast China, Vietnam, for example. So my question is, where are the Vietnams of Africa? Are we seeing this disrupted value chain courtesy of a very hawkish US Republican trade policy, which is disrupting existing value supply chains in Asia, displacing them to the likes of Vietnam, to an extent Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, etc. That's a macro opportunity that many African countries, I think particularly East Africa, should be alerted to and seizing gains from.
It's one thing to talk about displacement of those manufacturing value chains into East Africa, but what is it that those countries need to do in order to actually bring those in? Because that's where the detail really...
Exactly. I mean, manufacturing is heavy lifting. It's not a policy switch.
Because it's infrastructure, it's power, it's labor.
You need to have a pre-existing, very good infrastructure system. The services which lay on top of the infrastructure, for example, simple things, processing of visas, processing of border control documents, efficiency of ports. Having the hardware is one thing, the software is required as well, i.e. a very recipient state that can create this enabling environment. You need to have intellectual inputs, human capital inputs. How do you have supportive institutions? A very established services sector that can support industry. Industry requires services. So this comes about. I was in Vietnam last 2010, and to see the progress in the space of a decade around industrialization is significant, and how those layers have been built over time to take advantage of what is happening now. And Trump and US trade policy was totally unforeseen. But regardless, Vietnam was putting in place the building blocks over a decade ago in anticipation of a movement of manufacturing out of the China factory, if you will, into Southeast Asia and potentially beyond.
We're going to a short break now. Lots more to come, including Egyptian engineer seeks to register world's biggest mobile ice factory.
No one again, he can holding guns. Machine guns from police forces toward the protesters.
Were you worried about your life at that particular time?
Not at all.
Thank you very much for your time. What is your assessment of the state of the continent today?
Africa has the potential to power itself.
Excuse me.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Imagine getting a chance to name your own baby mountain gorilla. Well, 25 attendees of Rwanda's Kwita Izina got a chance to do just that. The naming ceremony also looks to start a conversation on the protection of the species, as well as to fundraise for conservation efforts. CGTN's Astatal has more.
And this year I was invited to name a gorilla baby, and it's a great privilege, and I'm so happy to be here.
Reka tubakire n'urugwiro n'ibyishimo abashyitsi bahire.
Hundreds of people gathered for an exciting moment at the Virunga National Park. 25 baby mountain gorillas took part in a special naming ceremony. Otara Gunewardin got the unique opportunity to name one of the gorillas.
And I named my baby Kira, and Kira, I named him Kira because both my sons, their names are Kiran and Rakil, and it happened to mean bless you as well in the Rwandan language, so that's why I named him.
I paid the school fees, and in time
to uplift and continue uplifting Rwanda's conservation and